Today is day 2 of former Trump fixer and lawyer Michael Cohen taking the stand in the criminal trial against Donald Trump. Today's bombshell: Cohen describes a White House meeting where Trump confirmed he'd reimburse Cohen for the hush money Cohen paid out of pocket to porn star Stormy Daniels. Cohen further detailed sending fake invoices to Trump's business as part of the scheme and testified that he lied in his testimony before Congress on behalf of Trump. There was also a dust-up on Twitter over one of the exhibits that names New York Times reporter Maggie Haberman, People's Exhibit 260. Now, text between Cohen and Maggie Haberman of the New York Times went as follows. Hoffinger, who is Maggie Haberman? Cohen. She is a reporter for the New York Times. Then from Michael Cohen to Maggie Haberman. Big boss just approved me responding to complaint and statement. Please start writing and I will call you soon. Now, those texts are being characterized as an indication that Haberman is a stenographer or mouthpiece for Donald Trump. We'll get into that more in a second. Meanwhile, outside the courtroom, House Speaker Mike Johnson came to Trump's defense. Take a listen to what he had to say.
The crime that they are accusing President Trump of is falsification of business records. But I think everybody knows he is not the bookkeeper for his company. President Trump is innocent of these charges. And again, anyone with common sense can understand what is happening here.
And in a blow to Trump, the New York Appeals Court has denied Trump's appeal of his gag orders that he's violated now 10 times. Trump argues the order is unconstitutional. Yesterday, Cohen said he used his home equity line of credit to cover the payment so it wouldn't be traced back to Trump as it was paperless. He also claimed that Trump only thought about the 2016 election, not his marriage. Here's what CNN's Caitlin Collins reported from the Manhattan court. Let's watch.
Oh, wow. That's basically Michael Cohen saying that Trump was essentially arguing that if Melania Trump was upset enough over this to leave him, that it wouldn't be a problem for him.
He'd find a fourth wife or fourth girlfriend. That's what it seems to be insinuating there. That's how I read that.
Yeah.
It's a pretty callous comment. So it'd be interesting to see from our reporters inside how Trump responds to that.
I mean, a reminder, Michael Cohen went and had lunch with Melania Trump after he lied to her about the Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal stuff to apologize to her. When he testified to Congress, he said one of his biggest regrets was lying to the First Lady because he said that she was a good person and that she didn't deserve it, but he was saying he was lying on Donald Trump's behalf.
All right, so it seems clear that the kind of liberal media news channels are really invested in kind of the
to embarrass Trump
family drama of it. I mean, look, I don't know that Republicans really have a leg to stand on saying that this kind of stuff isn't fair game. They tried to make a lot out of nothing when it came to, Obama wore a tan suit and it was news. Sometimes your chickens come home to roost, and this seems to be that. And I will say that the behavior that Donald Trump is exhibiting, or what is coming out in the course of this lawsuit, is, I think, out of step of kind of the moral character we do expect of any kind of leadership figure, much less the President of the United States of America. Now, it's not illegal.
Right.
And so,
a decision for the American people to make when they head to the ballot box.
Right. So it's completely fair for politicos to want to influence that decision by harping on what this means about Donald Trump's character. But the more important aspect of this, I do think, is quite obviously whether or not he's criminally liable. And Cohen really did connect the dots in an important way in his testimony today, saying that he was instructed that this was a Trump-directed scheme, and that he was told he was going to be reimbursed for his personal payment to Stormy Daniels.
Right, and if the jury finds that testimony credible, despite Michael Cohen's past habits of deceptive statements, they can make that determination, and if they determine that it is, in fact, a campaign finance violation, Trump will have to suffer the consequences there. I did want to talk about the Maggie Haberman of it all, that this exhibit, this piece of evidence that liberals are losing their mind over on social media, trying to make it sound that Maggie Haberman, this New York Times reporter, who I suppose they think was insufficiently critical of Trump in her coverage, that coming from the liberal perspective, it does not look to me or read to me at all like evidence that she's kind of in cahoots with Trump world. The literal statement sounds to me like Michael Cohen was saying to her, oh, go ahead and start writing your story, and then we're going to get a statement. We'll be able to get a statement to you soon. That could be there's nothing untoward about that kind of exchange. Letting the journalist know that you're going to get back to them.
The journalist is saying, I can't write this story without a statement, without something more concrete, without evidence. And he's reaching out to her saying, it's coming, you can go ahead and get going.
Right.
Like, that's all that is.
It's just a courtesy to someone you want to have enough of a relationship with to provide statements to. It's not indicative of anything sinister as far as I can tell. When we were looking at the discourse, we were going back to, well, what actually was it? I was expecting to find something a lot more damning, and that's just like a total nothing burger. It's very funny.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't clear to me the direction, frankly, of where this criticism is coming from of Maggie Haberman. I actually thought it was maybe conservatives were also frustrated about the closeness between a kind of New York Times journalist and the Trump camp.
I think it's big resistance people.
Okay. I
think it's resistance people being like this, because there's been so much liberal criticism of the New York Times lately. Remember how how so many accounts reacted to the editor, one of the New York Times editors, telling Semaphore that the Biden campaign thinks we should just be totally in the tank for Biden. Sorry, we're not talking about the threat to democracy constantly, because that's not the top issue for all voters. And even, in fact, a lot of voters see Biden as a threat to democracy more so than Trump. We're talking about inflation and the economy and immigration because those are things we care about. Sorry. And then that was seen as I saw so many liberal type people on social media saying this is an admission that they're trying to have Trump win again. So I think it's those people seeing that, see, we told you the New York Times and Trump are, marching hand in hand to establish a fascist America.
Yeah. So the big news out of today,
which is diluted,
is Michael Cohen saying that he testified that he worked on the deal, quote, at the direction of Donald J. Trump, and, quote, for the benefit of Donald J. Trump. And he told these details about how he took out a home equity line of credit in order to give the initial payment before he was reimbursed, what he went through to hide that payment from his wife because he didn't think that his wife was going to understand his involvement in all of this. And I guess my question to you is, do you think it's credible, regardless of his previous misstatements on the record? Michael Cohen says he lied before because he thought he was still kind of in Trump camp, and he lied to protect Trump. Once he went to jail and Trump threw him under the bus, he felt differently, and he's no longer holding on to Trump's loyalty. That's how he explains his kind of flip-flopping on this issue, or his untruthful statements before. But on this, do you think it's really credible that the stuff that is demonstrated to be true based on a paper record, that I took out a home equity line of credit for $130,000 and gave it to this porn star Stormy Daniels, who I had no personal relationship with, but who the president did, that would have been done for any reason other than for the benefit of the president and, in all likelihood, at the president's direction?
Yeah, I don't particularly doubt it. And again, the jury can decide that. If the paper trail is presented to them and looks pretty plausible, as it seems to look, it's going to end up being a win for the prosecution. Again, if they agree that the way the prosecution has characterized this as a campaign finance violation, as a campaign expenditure, is a persuasive argument. I think that might end up being the weak part of the argument, but it is totally conceivable that Trump loses this case on the basis that there is in fact a paper trail. There isn't much underlying doubt about whether the encounter happened. I think even most of Trump's supporters don't really actually doubt. I don't know what they think deep down inside, but I think there's a lot of accepted plausibility to it. But again, that's not the underlying issue. The issue is whether it's a campaign expenditure.
And do you think that some of the emphasis on Trump's kind of personal dealings, this testimony that was being discussed in the last clip that we watched, that Trump seemed indifferent to whether or not Melania would find out because he thinks he wouldn't really be on the market for very long if they were to separate, because I guess he's such a hot commodity, and that the real concern was keeping it from the voting public as opposed to his wife. The details that Stormy Daniels was kind of criticized for by the court for going into too much detail about the actual sexual encounter will have any kind of effect on the voting public, even if it's just to make pro-Trump conservatives want to turn off the television and ignore him because it's just unsavory.
I mean, and it doesn't have anything to do with the case itself, and it seems just designed to me to embarrass Trump, which fine, whatever. Is it moving the needle at all?
Is it does have something to do with the case, whether or not it was a campaign finance action versus a personal protection payment.
Yeah, I mean, trying to separate those things is kind of not clear to me, but.
Well, if Donald Trump did in fact say, I'm doing this because I want the public not to know, I don't give a crap about if Melania knows because I'm a hot commodity and I'll have a new wife in a second, if that happened, that is a pretty clear indication of what was motivating him, right?
Rather than hiding it from Melania. I don't know, those seems like, but then if he were to be separated, that could theoretically reduce his how palatable he is to the American electorate. I don't know. I don't think it's changing anyone's mind about Trump at this point, not this trial. We just had another round of polling on where Trump stands with respect to Joe Biden, and he is in as commanding a position as he was previously. I guess one could argue that the public hasn't had the time to catch up yet. I think that's wishful thinking for the Democratic side. We have no data to support, no reason to think that at least this trial is hurting or diminishing Trump's appeal whatsoever. None. No statistical evidence of that.
Yeah, I think the thing that might move the needle is if we ever get an actual debate. It would be wonderful to be having some policy conversation before Election Day. But for now, we are stuck with parsing secondhand details from a non-televised hush money bribery trial.
They came for you, Maggie Haberman, but I defended you. Let's not forget that.
All right, we've got more Rising for You coming up next.